Do you want to ruin your life?
Yes.
Probably not. Well, it turns out I've been reading some books, and this book I was reading was talking about three thoughts that basically will ruin your life if you think them on a regular basis. So I figured, hey, let's discuss these thoughts, see what we could come up with. And that's what we're going to do in this episode of the Existential Stoic podcast with me, Randy, and that Danny. What's up, Danny? Yeah.
Smooth.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, so this is interesting because I've been reading this book. It's by Albert Ellis, PhD, called How to Make Yourself Happy and Remarkably Less Disturbable. And this is a guy who created REBT, so Rational Emotive Behavioral Therapy, which is a
Okay.
predecessor to CBT, which is probably the most effective treatment for depression, blows antidepressants and stuff out of the water. And the guy that I talk about all the time, David Burns, who created Team CBT, uh, he oftentimes studied with this guy Albert Ellis, and I find it really interesting because both of them studied philosophy, and so
Yeah.
like probably the best psychologists or in the world are philosophers. Like,
Well,
go
it's
figure.
it makes sense, right? Because you know it's funny, like Freud read a lot of philosophy, he read a lot of Nietzsche and stuff, like he read Dostoevsky. You know, they were very influenced by it. And it cracks me up all the time because I read contemporary psychologists and stuff, and I see those ideas and ideals like from philosophers directly in their work, and it cracks me up because they're like, I discovered this. I'm like, no, you didn't. That's been around for thousands of years, guy. You didn't make it up. At least these guys usually admit. And they're like, hey,
Yeah.
this is from this or whatever. But yeah,
But
just
it
funny.
is funny because they do talk about a lot of other people in like pop psychology and stuff. They say they come up with stuff that they totally didn't.
Yeah, dude, they
They're,
totally don't.
they're
It's
just
like,
a bunch of narcissists.
but it makes sense
Yeah.
because philosophers, I mean, Nietzsche called himself a psychologist, right? Because they're thinking about the mind, the human mind, our well-being, living a good life. That's all basically psychology stuff, right?
Yeah. And so it's kind of like well, it could be a groundbreaking thought that you feel how you think. Like a lot of people aren't happy and they think, well, maybe I need to get on some drug or something, or maybe I need to change the externals in my life. But could it be as simple as just changing your thinking? And I think a lot of the studies that they've done recently with CBT and stuff says that yes, it actually will. If you change your thinking, you can change your life.
Well, it's interesting because I think that is true. Like our thoughts so much are the sort of determining factor of how we see the world, right? And how we feel in the world. And it's amazing how powerful our ability to interpret reality is and to change our perspective. Like you can literally flip your perspective on something by just interpreting it slightly differently and seeing it differently. And all you have to do is like once you see that's possible, you see that there's another avenue that you can way to feel and way to think about the world. It's really cool, you know?
Well, yeah, it goes back to the dichotomy of control. Because what can we actually control? Our judgments, our decisions, our actions. And that's pretty much it. Like externals can't control any of those.
Nope.
Maybe we can influence them, maybe. But like pretty much we can't.
Yeah, well, there's like, that's why Sisyphus, right? Like in Camus' myth of Sisyphus, he was able to find happiness because he could reinterpret his situation, take ownership of it, and yeah, it's no longer a torture. So yeah, anyway, sorry. Like,
All right. So this could be a short episode. I don't know, but we'll talk about these things. Because I read it this morning and I was saying like, wow, this is really, really interesting.
cool.
How about this?
I
So
never know how long our episodes are going to be.
yeah, I know, right? So basically there's these three beliefs that if you have these beliefs, you're just going to cause yourself a bunch of like pain and suffering throughout your life. And I
Okay.
looked at them and I'm like, I
Damn
have all three of those.
it.
Those are like my three founding beliefs. So
Those are my core beliefs, sir. What
I
do I do
know.
now?
Yes, it's pretty tricky. Anyways, so first belief, okay, and you have to tell me what you think of these,
All right.
because we haven't discussed this beforehand, so it's fresh for Danny and
Yeah,
for all the listeners.
I know. The
So,
anticipation's
first,
killing me.
yeah, first belief, I must perform well and win approval, or else I am an inadequate person.
Oh, that's a tough one. Yeah, I think a lot of people feel that though.
Yeah,
Absolutely, dude. I used to feel that way a lot. It's gotten less of a burden now, but I can definitely say like that was a huge struggle for me when I was like in high school, college. grad school and stuff because like that idea, I think we're taught that when we're young, that you got to get A's, right? You got to win
Yep.
the awards, you got to excel. We have all
Perfectionism.
yeah, and all these expectations placed on you from your parents, from the outside, you're really smart, blah blah, this that whatever crap people tell
If
you
you're
that
not first, you're last.
yeah, it makes you feel like you have to perform to the top. And that I know how dangerous that is because perfectionism, one, causes you to have a ton of stress about doing any work, which makes it almost impossible to get shit done. And two, you're making like your whole value as a person contingent on what other people think of you and circumstances that you have no control over. Right?
Yeah.
It's insane.
I like how you just said that about upon other people's opinion of you and circumstances you have no thing over because it says I must perform well, which is the first part of it, and win approval, the second part. And if you don't do that, then you're an inadequate person. So let's just take a look. Like, President Trump was just inaugurated.
Yeah.
So he performed well, arguably became the president of the United States for a second term. People would say arguably that's a pretty good achievement. But even so, half of the people still hate him.
Yeah.
So like you can't even you can't even win under this. Like it's a
No.
logical fallacy. You can't win because even if you do win, other people won't approve because you have no control over them. And some people will like you and some people will hate you no matter
Plus,
what.
you have
And
no
so because of that, you're an inadequate person and you're never going to feel happy.
and you have no control over when their opinion is going to change or for the reasons that it changes. But what you do, the first part of it, performing well, I think there's nothing wrong with that. I think that can be a great value to live by, right? That like, what I do, I'm going to do is best to the best of my abilities, right? So
Mhm.
it might be that, depending on your level, like, if you're new at something, it might be doing it poorly, but you're trying, right? And learning or whatever. But you're not then adding to it this conditional statement about other people's view of you, which is really the problem there, because I think that makes it impossible to realize. It's just impossible.
Yeah. And even performing well can be kind of a trap because
Yeah.
how well?
Yeah.
Like
What does that look like?
I mean, David Burns gives this analogy all the time, where it's like, if you, how well is performing well? Be specific, and it's like, okay, you got to do like 80%, and then you're performing well, and it's like, okay, so 79% you're not performing well, you're an inadequate person, and all of a sudden, magically at 80%, you're
Yeah.
you're a good person. Like, what's the
Yeah.
deal?
That is true, right? Like putting that on but it doesn't give you room either for bad days and stuff because you feel like this pressure to always perform. And I think that
Hmm.
is dangerous. That feeling that you have to perform for others or for yourself to be validated is really dangerous because it just puts
Yeah,
you in a situation where it's impossible, right? It's funny,
yeah,
I remember reading there was it might have been Moby, but might have been actually Moby was on this podcast. But anyway, the singer, right? But
yeah.
he was talking about how like at the height of his career, he was super depressed. He was like, he said, it was like
Hmm.
it was during one of the MTV Awards. He's like, I had this amazing room, like in this suite,
Yep.
beautiful room, had just gotten done with a party with people and all. And he's like, and I was walking around this room drinking and like just thinking like I want to throw myself out the window. And
Hmm.
it's interesting because like I think that's the same kind of trap, right? That even at the height of your career, there's going to be people that hate you. There's going to be people starting to do better than you because like maybe their careers are taking off, whatever. There's no way to always be in that position where you're the top kind of thing.
Yeah, there's a great actual story, not a story, but like Mark Manson wrote about that in The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck, where he compared the dude who created Megadeth and Pete Best from the Beatles, who was kicked out originally. So like
Yeah,
they were both kicked out from the bands. The dude who created Megadeth was kicked out of Metallica right when they got signed, and then Pete Best got kicked out of the Beatles sometime before they became famous.
yeah,
And so, but like you can see how the same thing happened to both of them, but they responded completely differently. So the dude who got kicked out of Metallica, went on to create Megadeth, which is arguably the number two heavy metal band
yeah,
ever,
yeah.
and has done insanely successful, but he's still miserable because he never did as well as Metallica.
He's always comparing himself, right? And trying
Yep.
to be better than, yeah.
Yeah, whereas Pete Best went on and he lived his life. He got a
Didn't he live like a
family,
normal
children,
life?
whatever. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah,
He
yeah.
had a normal life, but he looks back at it. He's like, yeah, the Beatles would have been nice, but I never would have been able to have this life that I love now had I have done that.
That is the hardest part of it too, is I think when we focus on accomplishments and stuff like that and achievements, it's easy to lose sight of what we actually want. you know? Because like, dude, everybody when they're young probably dreams of being famous, right? Because it looks nice. Like, oh, all these people want attention. You know, I'll get all this attention. I'll have all this money. Everybody will know me. But like, is that really what you want? Is that really
Mhm.
the life you want to live? Because it comes with a lot of baggage that's
And
going to be,
after fame comes oblivion.
yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
right?
I mean, can you imagine like being famous for a year when you're like look at any of these child stars. They're
Yeah.
like famous for a year and then the rest of their life they're just living in oblivion.
Oh, dude, so
Like
many of them have problems too. You know, I
yeah.
mean, like it's like because like and then because of the money, sometimes they have problems with their parents taking stuff, and like it's just you see depression
Mhm.
and all kinds of issues afterwards, and it makes sense because it's like you weren't old enough to make the decision for yourself that that's what you wanted to
Yeah.
do, and you didn't think it through. Yeah,
All right. So we got a good discussion off the first
yeah,
one.
that's a
I'm
good one.
excited. Yeah. On to number two. This is another one that's like again my core belief.
I'm sure. Yeah.
So number two. Other people must treat me kindly and fairly, or else they are utterly rotten. Dude, I mean, this is like the story of my life where someone doesn't treat me like right
Yeah.
once, and then I just like they're done for life.
Terrible
Like
person
that's it.
forever.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is hard because it is. I think a lot of us probably fall into this trap, like with little thing, you know, like you're driving and somebody like isn't going at a red light or something, or like the light turns green and they stay stopped, right? You know, like you flip out, you know, you're blaming them. It's like their fault, but you don't know the person at all. So I think
Yeah.
that is an interesting one because it's hard to, you know, and I guess the mistreatment's hard too. But yeah, that everybody has to treat you and respect you a certain way. But it's like, why do you demand that? What right do you
Hmm.
have to demand that? You know?
Yeah, true. Yeah, I always think that, I'm the king and everybody has to do everything my way, but it's not true.
My way or the highway. I mean,
Exactly.
I think we should respect others and like treat them decently, right? Like we shouldn't be, we should all be able to,
Well,
we should all be able to accept that from other people. I think that like
mhm.
the interactions are going to be fair and all. We don't have to agree though. We don't have to, you know, there's a lot of things we don't have to do.
Well, remember when we talked about this a few times before, where like whenever we have a flaw or something, it's always like situational, but when it's
Yeah.
somebody else, it's their character.
Yeah.
So like somebody could have been having a bad day or they just weren't paying
Yeah.
attention or whatever, and they just acted really nasty. But all of a sudden, that's their character, and they're like this dastardly whatever. And yeah.
This evil person that's out to get you
Mhm.
on this thing. It is, yeah. It's kind of funny how we put, I don't know how I could say, how can I phrase that? It'll come
We
back to
put
me.
people in boxes. It's just
We
easier
do.
to classify
We
them.
do. We classify people, we put people in boxes. And then, but I think that also affects us a lot too, because we start to think that way about ourselves. And it makes it really hard to live a whole, because we're whole people. And that, like you said, everybody has bad days. And you
Mhm.
notice, and we act like things matter so much more than they really do. Do you know what I mean? Like it's like when,
Yeah.
like, just a good example. I know when I was teaching, like, you know, when people wouldn't turn in an assignment or something, if they contacted me beforehand, I don't care what their reason is. Really, I don't. It's like, dude, stuff happens. I know. I Everybody has things happen where it's hard to get something done on time. Maybe you procrastinated, maybe whatever, right? Who cares? It's an assignment. It's not the end of the world. But like, then there's people who act like it's so and like, I can't believe they didn't bring this on time. It's like, dude, they have a whole life.
Yeah.
This is not it. You know, it's like,
Yeah,
oh,
we do take stuff really, really seriously. Like
we
really,
do.
really serious. Like I have a friend who went to a week-long meditation retreat. And before he went, he was just like up to his gills in work and just, he was just burnt out completely. And then he
Yeah,
went to this thing and came back from it and like literally like a changed person. And I
because
was
you took a
asking him, I was
break
like,
for a
so
week.
I know. And I was asking him, I was like, so what'd you get out of it? And he's like, I just learned that like nothing really matters.
No.
And I was like, I was instantly jealous. I was like, damn, I wish I could learn that.
But it doesn't. I mean, it really doesn't. It's funny. Like, it's stuff matters to us because, you know, of our perspective of what we're doing and all. But like in the grand scheme of things, none of it really matters. And I think it's important to take that perspective sometimes just to put things to just take a step back and realize that like maybe this isn't maybe I don't need to flip out about this. Maybe I don't need to get angry or like maybe I don't need to overpressure myself to get this done, that it'll be okay. You know? That's a
Yeah,
good one though.
cool. All right. So number three, conditions must be the way I want them to be, or else the world is impossibly bad.
It is. I think you see this a lot now. Like everybody has this one.
I know, right? Yeah, because I was laughing when I read these things because I was like, oh my goodness, me. I was
These
like,
are
that's
my core
exact.
values,
I know.
my core beliefs. Yeah,
Yeah.
this is a
But
hard.
it's crazy because we try so hard to make conditions be the way we want them to be. And
Yeah,
if they're not that way, then the world's just terrible. And it's so it happens like it's automatic because it's like I want this thing to be this way, and I'm just going to be miserable until that happens. Because when this happens, then I'll be happy. But I'm just going to be miserable until then.
you ever see like a child break down at a store because like they wanted something and it's like in blue and they wanted yellow or something?
Yeah.
It's like that, right? Like, you know, and maybe it's because like I there is this maybe it's because everybody's rushed and you feel like the world's out of control, so you want to control as much of it as you can. And one way to do that is like if the conditions aren't right, like if the conditions aren't what you wanted, then you're just like, no, forget it. Like this is not I'm not taking part. Yeah, it's we don't give a lot of like wiggle room to ourselves or to others. And we don't think that like, there's already stuff happening out there that we have to make our way within this larger system. The system's not going to bend for us, right?
That's
Like,
a very good point.
yeah,
That so like that we are in this larger system because the universe has been going on forever.
yeah,
And even the Earth has been around for a long time, and even the United States has been around for a long time, even though it's only like 200 years compared with these
yeah,
other places that have been around for a lot longer. But like all this whole system has been going on before us, and it'll be going on after us, and yet we think that like our lives matter so much, and what
yeah.
we want to happen means so much, and it just causes us a lot of pain and suffering.
It is. It is funny. Well, it's like, it's like when you see people like, lose it because they're like, I can't believe it like rained on like my graduation party or something. It's like, well, rain happens. It's not like within our control. Like it doesn't mean that something's ruined. But it's funny
Yeah.
because it's that kind of idea, right? That the second things aren't perfect, they're awful. And I think that
Yeah,
that kind of ties into that perfectionist thinking too, which is really bad. Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah.
I know, like perfectionism is dangerous because like I think I was I can't remember if it was today or yesterday, but I was actually thinking about this, like this concept of perfectionism, because like things have gotten to a point where stuff is like incredible. Like computers, you look at them and you're like, whoa,
Yeah.
or like a watch, you look at that and you're like, whoa. But like things weren't always that good. Like
No.
shoddy craftsmanship was pretty normal probably until like 50 years ago or even less. I don't know.
Well, really,
But
I mean, even like, before, I mean, it still exists, I guess, but like, yeah, especially before like the Industrial Revolution, like before manufacturing, stuff was like everything was different, dude. Like,
yeah.
you
You would
never
make
know.
stuff yourself. So like you
Yeah.
would have this wobbly old table that like you would make and that was just the norm. So like I don't think that the concept of perfectionism really existed, or maybe it wasn't as prevalent because nowadays when you see stuff, it all looks perfect.
Yeah.
And so you're like, I could never do something like that. That's incredible.
That's a good point too. It's also like this, it's like that is also a way to trick ourselves into thinking that we are unable or incapable of doing things. Because we're looking at a finished product. So it looks so hard to imagine how you get from zero to there, right? From nothing to that
Mhm.
point. When in reality, it's doable. Somebody else did it, right? Like it's totally possible. I used to think that way about programming all the time. And like now I realize like it's not that at all. Anybody can do it. Like literally anybody could. It just takes
Uh-huh.
time. Like everything else, it just takes learning and time. And that's it.
You know
You
what's so
know?
funny? It's like, do you remember the Gateway 2000, that computer?
Yes, that was popular with that little like cow box with the
Yeah,
handle.
dude,
Yeah.
that was like that. I never in my life has a computer been more perfect than that. Like, I don't know why, but just like when it was coming out, the marketing that they did, the age that I was, how
They did it.
important computers were, it was just like that was like the holy grail of computers. And never in my life has another computer even come close
Their
to my
marketing was
perception of
brilliant
what that
too.
was.
Yeah, because when you walked into the stores, because their boxes were unique, you could see them from like all the way across the store, remember? And like you knew
Yeah,
exactly what they were. They were the only ones that had that box, that shape. Yeah. Imagine if you
yeah.
had one now that would probably have what like a like 10 megabyte RAM and like
I know, right? Well, I look at pictures of it because like there was just like I don't know. I guess in your childhood you look back to these things and they were just incredible. And so like I look at pictures online and I'm like that is a terrible looking computer. Like, but
yeah.
it was something. Yeah,
Yeah,
who
but
knows?
it was one of the old ones too. The screen probably was terrible if you went back now. Like, we
Oh my
take for granted
goodness.
how things have like progressed in that area.
I don't think we
Text?
could deal with computers now, like those computers nowadays.
No, dude. Oh my
Takes five
God.
minutes to boot up.
Everything
Like
took
a web
forever.
page loads like this.
But it felt
Yeah.
fast then. You remember when, oh
Yeah.
yeah, because the images used to load like this line by
I know,
line,
right?
right?
You would wait around forever for an
Every
image.
time you put a big image on a website, it would like take 25 minutes to load. God.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
then you couldn't get phone calls when you were online or something like
But
that.
that's the
Yeah.
weird thing about our expectations and norms too. And I think that goes back to these three beliefs, right? Is like it's hard because it's so easy to get caught up in like modern things and think that that's all everything should be normalized based on this, right? Our experience
Yeah.
now and like, but that's not a fair thing. Like technology moves very fast, and like our way of communicating, like being able to like do things instantly online, that doesn't necessarily translate to everyday life because without that speed of that connection, you're not going to have that speed, that ability to do this things that fast, and like, but it makes us think that things should happen that quickly. And then like, you see all these things online, like, we talked about before, like the overnight successes and stuff, and everybody feels like they're a failure because they haven't made $1 billion when they're 18. And it's like, well, that was a lucky case.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think, I mean, I don't know because I'm just guessing with this, but I would think that like people who do make a ton of money early on, they kind of miss out on some of the fun of life. Like I remember there was this game Borderlands 2. I used to play with my brother and his
Great
friends.
game.
Yeah,
Yeah.
awesome, very fun game. And we loved playing. We would play it every night because it was like fun. You could play it with other people at the
Yeah. Oh,
same
yeah.
time. And so we would be all chatting and playing. And it was great. And then one night we were playing and somebody gave us like $10 million in the game. Like enough money to where you could buy anything
You don't
and
have to
never
work
even
for
think about
money.
it.
Yeah. Yeah. There's no anything you're working towards now. You just ruined it.
The game lost all of its fun. We stopped playing 2 days later.
Yeah.
And I just think like that example, whenever somebody's like, yeah, I just want to be rich, I'm like, I think about it and I'm like, but that's kind of like the stuff that you want in life is only there because you can't have it right now.
It's a
So like,
motivation, right, to get it. And
yeah,
like,
so if you have all this money and you can have anything you want right now that money can buy, then all of a sudden life either becomes disappointing because now there's other stuff that money can't buy and you can't have it, or I don't know,
well, I think
maybe
that's
I'm
why
wrong.
you see like people like Zuckerberg and stuff who like, look, he could have he could have gotten out of Facebook when he was 20, whatever, and been set for life and done whatever the hell he wanted. He could have explored different projects, done anything else. Instead, he stayed with it. And I think because part of it is like when that happens, it's like they have this fear of like now you have to hold on to it, power, having more money than other people. Those all become your goals, not living your life. And then you end up doing shitty things to people and stuff, it's like all for
Yeah,
that end. Yeah, just to have the
yeah,
most. Crazy.
crazy.
It is crazy.
So, anyways, that is three thoughts that'll mess up your life. I do recommend this book if you want to check it out. It's
Pretty
called How to
cool.
Make Yourself Happy and Remarkably Less Disturbable by Dr. Albert Ellis. And yeah, I have a blast reading through it. It's a short book. It's only like 150, 160 pages, something like
Oh,
that.
good. So he doesn't
But
pad it with a bunch of stuff.
oh no, no, it's like it's right to the point, but it's something where every time I pick it up, I'm just like, wow, that's a really
Well,
great way
that's
to
like
think.
all those self-help books where it's like you get the whole book's on the title and
Yeah.
it's like 400 pages. You're like, dude, this is
Uh-huh.
unnecessary. You're
They
just
just tell
repeating
a whole bunch of
yourself.
stories about the same
Yeah.
thing. Yeah,
It's like, oh my
I
God.
know. Crazy. So that's all for this episode. If you did enjoy this, we are taking idea requests for episodes. So you can
Helpful.
either comment down in the YouTube comments or you can email us in the show notes and let us know what you'd like to hear about because this is a two-way street. We make the episodes, you can request whatever you want, and
Yeah.
if it's
We're happy to do them.
appropriate, we'll do the episode.
Yeah.
So, anyways, until next time, this is the Existential Stoic Podcast. I'm Randy. That's Danny. We'll see you later, Danny.
Later, Randy.